Millions of voter registrations are now being checked through federal government databases before the November midterm elections. Supporters say this is about protecting election integrity and making sure only eligible citizens are on the voter rolls. Critics say the process could mistakenly flag eligible voters and create confusion before a major national election. So, what exactly is happening? Why is it controversial? And how could this affect ordinary Americans? Let's break it down clearly and professionally. Hello, and welcome back. Today we are covering an important U.S. political and election administration story involving the Trump administration, voter eligibility checks, state election systems, and the upcoming midterm elections. According to reporting from the Associated Press, the Trump administration has run at least 67 million voter registrations through government databases as part of a wider effort to check voter eligibility before the November elections. The checks are being done through the Department of Homeland Security's SAVE program, which stands for Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements. This story is important because it sits at the center of two major concerns in American politics: election security and voter access. The central question is simple, but the issue is complicated. The Trump administration says voter rolls should be accurate, updated, and protected against ineligible registrations. The administration argues that federal tools can help states identify possible non-citizens or people who may no longer be eligible to remain on voter lists. On the other side, voting rights groups, civil liberties organizations, and some Democratic officials say the process could create false matches, wrongly flag valid voters, and lead to people being removed or suspended from voter rolls before the midterms. The Department of Homeland Security's SAVE system is an online service run by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. USCIS says the system is used by registered government agencies to verify immigration status and other eligibility-related information. The controversy is not just about the existence of verification. It is about how the data is being used, how accurate the matches are, who reviews the results, and what happens to voters who are flagged. According to AP, at least 67 million voter registrations have been checked through the expanded verification process. Most of those records came from Republican-controlled states. The checks reportedly flagged about 24,000 possible non-citizens and about 384,000 people who may be deceased. But here is the key point. Being flagged by a database does not automatically mean someone is illegally registered or has voted illegally. That distinction matters. Supporters of the program argue that flagged records are only a starting point for further review. They say election officials still need to confirm the information before taking final action. Critics argue that database matching can produce errors. They warn that naturalized citizens, people with old records, people with name changes, and people with incomplete government files could be mistakenly flagged. AP also reported that at least 25 states have used SAVE to check voter rolls since April 2025, after the Trump administration expanded the system's search abilities. This means the issue is no longer limited to one state or one local election office. It has become a national election administration debate. To understand why this is happening now, we need to look at the broader policy environment. On March 31st, 2026, President Trump issued an executive order titled Ensuring Citizenship Verification and Integrity in Federal Elections. The order states that voting in federal elections is reserved for U.S. citizens and directs federal agencies to support citizenship verification and voter list integrity efforts. The Justice Department has also pursued state voter roll data. In February 2026, DOJ announced lawsuits against additional states, saying accurate voter rolls are necessary for election integrity and transparency. Reuters separately reported that the Justice Department prepared a legal opinion supporting federal demands for unredacted state voter rolls, including sensitive information such as partial Social Security numbers and driver's license numbers. Some federal courts have pushed back against those demands, and legal challenges are continuing. So this is not only a database story, it is also a legal battle between federal authority, state control of elections, privacy concerns, and voting rights protections. This story matters for several reasons. First, it affects public trust in elections. If voters believe election rolls contain illegible names, confidence in the system can weaken. But if eligible voters believe they could be wrongly removed or challenged, that also damages public trust. Second, it affects state election officials. Election offices must maintain accurate voter rolls, but they also have to protect eligible voters from mistaken removal. When federal checks produce large numbers of flagged records, states must decide how to investigate those records, how to notify people, and how to avoid errors. Third, it affects ordinary voters. For most Americans, this may sound like a technical government process, but if a person is wrongly flagged, the issue can become very personal very quickly. A voter could receive a notice, face a challenge, or discover there's a problem close to an election. That is why critics say timing and safeguards are extremely important. The human impact is where this story becomes more than politics. Imagine someone who became a US citizen years ago, registered legally, voted in past elections, and then gets flagged because an old immigration record was not updated properly. That person may have to prove eligibility again. For people with easy access to documents, time, transportation, and legal support, that may be manageable. For elderly voters, low-income voters, naturalized citizens, military families, rural residents, or people who recently changed names or addresses, the process may be more stressful. At the same time, supporters of the checks argue that every eligible voter's ballot should not be diluted by ineligible registrations. They say proper review protects the value of lawful voting and strengthens confidence in elections. Both arguments are powerful because both are connected to the same principle. People want elections to be fair. The disagreement is over whether this process protects fairness or creates new risks. From a professional news analysis perspective, this story has three major layers. The first layer is election security. The administration is using federal verification tools to help identify possible ineligible records. That aligns with its stated goal of strengthening election integrity. DOJ has argued that voter roll maintenance is essential for secure elections. The second layer is voter access. Voting rights groups argue that large-scale database matching can create false positives. They have filed lawsuits challenging parts of the administration's approach, including concerns about federal collection of voter data and possible wrongful purges. Reuters reported that groups including the ACLU, CREW, and Protect Democracy sued over the demand for state voter rolls. The third layer is federal versus state authority. In the United States, elections are mainly administered by states, but federal law also sets important rules. That creates tension when Washington seeks broader access to state voter data. This is why the legal fight is likely to continue. The key question for courts and election officials will be whether the federal government has the authority to demand and use this data in the way it is attempting, and whether there are enough safeguards to protect eligible voters from mistakes. This is still a developing story. Several important questions remain unresolved. How many flagged voters will actually be removed or suspended after state-level review? How many flagged records will turn out to be errors? Will courts limit the federal government's access to voter data? Will states apply the checks differently from one another? And could this issue become a major political flashpoint before the November midterms? Right now, the verified facts show that millions of records have been checked, thousands have been flagged, and multiple lawsuits are underway. But the final effect on voters and election administration is still uncertain. The Trump administration's voter eligibility checks are now one of the most important election-related developments ahead of the midterms. Supporters see the effort as a necessary step to protect election integrity and keep voter rolls accurate. Critics see it as a risky process that could wrongly affect eligible voters and increase distrust before a major election. For ordinary Americans, the issue is not just political. It is about confidence, fairness, privacy, and whether the election system can protect both security and access at the same time. As the lawsuits move forward and more states respond, this story will remain one to watch closely. What do you think this effort represents? A necessary step for election security, or a risk that valid voters could be wrongly affected before the midterms? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this update useful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your opinion below. For more clear and professional updates on U.S. politics, economy, finance, and public policy, stay connected with the channel.